So I'm at Walmart and I just had the most heartbreaking encounter. And it was heartbreaking. But in a way, really beautiful. There is this gal, I don't know where she is, where they're parked. I wish I could find them. She was in an electric scooter. I could tell that there was something wrong because she was having a hard time talking, and her movements were very sporadic, kind of uncontrolled. And she was with her husband apparently, and he had big guy, very frustrated. He was like super frustrated, you could tell. And they were checking out, and she had bought a whole bunch of junk food, and he was very upset with her. He's like, "What are you doing with all this stuff?" And he's like, "I only eat once a day." And he was just really harsh. And she was looking at the dresses, and she said, "Oh, they're so beautiful. They're so, And actually, I don't know if I can see them, but anyway. And I said, "Yeah, I have a sister who's very beautiful, and she wears dresses like that." And here I am. I just told her, "Look at me. Look at what I'm." I said, "I'm no frills," and she said, she had a hard time talking. And I said, "Oh yeah, I see what." I said, "You know what you have? It's comfortable, so that's important. That's what's important." Yeah. So we checked out, and he must have forgot something. So he's like, "Oh no!" We were checking out, and she got in front, and she was asking a young girl about her tattoos, and then her husband noticed that she wasn't following in the little scooter, and he's like, "Michelle, what are you doing?" He's like, "Get out of the way. There's someone behind you." I said, "Oh no, I could talk to people all day too," and she's like, "Oh, sorry," and I said, "No," I said, that's fine." So I was behind her. I was still very frustrated, just really frustrated, and I felt bad for her, because he made it known to everybody, and then she was following him, and he said, "Just stop, and he says, I have to go and get something." And apparently he forgot the eggs. So when he went down the aisle, and he was very upset, I went up to her, and I grabbed the steps to Christ, and I went up to her, and I put my hand on her shoulder, and I said, "I want you to know that Jesus loves you." I said, "I want you to know that Jesus is your husband." I said, no matter what with your husband here, no matter how he treats you, no matter what he says, I want you to know that Jesus loves you." And all of a sudden she started talking, and I could understand her. She said that she had died and came back. And she says, "I pray to Jesus every day." I mean, she was like still moving, but she's like, "I pray to Jesus every day. I love Jesus." And she was holding on to the book. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to pray for you right here before your husband comes back." And I could see him coming down the aisle, and the way he walked, he was just so, he just had anger. And so I grabbed her hand, and I held it, and she held mine really tight. And I just prayed. I said, "Lord, just fill her with your spirit, protect her, and reveal yourself to her. Have her understand her purpose, why you brought her back, because I know there's a purpose, and please reveal yourself to her." And when I was done, I looked up, and she was crying, and he came, and he's like, "Here, I got it." I'm sorry, I was running out of footage or film. He came up then, and I said, "What's your name?" And I forgot what his name is. I think it was Jeff. I said, "You're awesome, Jeff." I was trying to make him feel good. And he looked at me, and he's like, Did she tell you what happened?" And I'm like, I said, "I'm a missionary, and I pray with people, and this is what I do." And he says, "She died for 8 minutes." I'm like, "Oh yeah, she told me what happened. Yeah, she told me." He says, "And this is the result of that. This is the result of that." And then I said, I couldn't believe, I said, "You're a good man." I said, "It's hard. You're a husband, but you're also a caretaker." He said, oh, I'm not a husband no more. He says, I'm just a caretaker. I'm just a caretaker. And then he went over to her, and he was just, he grabbed her head, and because she was bobbing a little bit, and he's like, yep, now I'm just a caretaker. And I said, yeah, that's the hardest job in the world. He says, yeah, tell me about it. And then when you don't have no family help? And I said, I get it. And he said, and then he was holding her head, and he said, her mother believes that this isn't her daughter. She believes that when you go to heaven, you don't come back, and her daughter's soul is still up in heaven. I said, well, that's not biblical. I said, that's not biblical. I said, this is her daughter. And she says, yeah. He said, yeah, I know. And I said, well, she just can't accept that this is her daughter. He said, yeah, exactly. And I said, well, I want to tell you something. You are a good man for staying with her. And you could tell now it was affecting him. I said, you are a good man. I said, you stayed. And I said, I also want to tell you something, brother. I said, Jesus needs to be your strength too. And I said, we have to recognize who the real enemy is. And I said, that's Satan. And he said, you know what? People don't believe in Satan, but I believe in Satan. You got to believe in Satan. I said, absolutely. We have to recognize who the enemy is. He says, it's just really deep with all of that. I said, I know it is, but I need you to understand that God is on your side. God is where your power is and your strength is, brother. And he's like, well, we got to go. He says, thanks for talking. He says, we got to go pick up our dog. And he said, when the tornado came through, I think they lost some dogs, and yeah, it's been rough. And she held on to the book, and she's like, thank you. And I said, you know what, Michelle? He said, I love you. I said, I love you. She said, I love you too. She needed that. She needed that today. And he needed that. And before I came in the store, I prayed. I asked the Lord today for a big, big encounter. Please pray for Michelle. Please pray for Michelle and her husband. Their only hope is Jesus. Their only hope is Jesus.